Even when a woman is undeniably drawn to you, when she feels that spark, that chemistry, that unspoken tension, it doesn't automatically translate into action on her part. She might crave you deeply, think about you often, and even fantasize about what it would be like to be closer to you, yet she'll remain silent. She won't reach out. She won't message first. She won't make that move you're expecting. And the reason for that often boils down to something far more nuanced than just pride or playing hard to get. One of the most overlooked yet powerful factors is emotional safety. Women don't just want to feel attracted. They want to feel secure. They want to know that their emotions are safe in your presence, that your energy is grounded, and that you're not going to shake the foundation of their mental and emotional stability once they let you in. Attraction on its own is fleeting. It can be sparked by looks, confidence, charm, or even mystery. But emotional safety? That's what makes a woman stay. That's what makes her open up. That's what allows her to be vulnerable and reach out first. But if a woman feels even a subtle uncertainty about whether you're emotionally reliable, she'll hesitate. It's not always something she consciously processes. Often, it's a subconscious reaction. Her intuition kicks in. Her internal radar starts scanning for danger signs. Are you consistent with your energy? Do you show up with clarity? Or do you flirt one moment and disappear the next? Do you communicate in a way that shows depth? Or are you just offering surface-level interactions that don't lead anywhere real? If you're giving off signs that you're unpredictable or emotionally unavailable, even if the attraction is strong, she'll pull back. Because women are wired to protect their emotional well-being. They've been through enough situations where they've given too much too soon, trusted someone who wasn't ready, or invested in someone who only showed up halfway. So even if a part of her wants to text you, wants to spend time with you, wants to lean in, another part of her is checking for stability. And if she doesn't feel it, she'll choose silence over vulnerability. She'll choose to watch from afar, rather than risk engaging and being disappointed again. You might think you're doing everything right. You're attractive, successful, maybe even kind. But if she senses that emotionally you're not present, or that you're not tuned into more than just the physical or superficial, then she's going to put up that invisible wall. And sometimes that wall doesn't look like resistance. It looks like absence, like silence, like craving from a distance without ever acting on it. Because to a woman, emotional safety is the gateway to deeper connection. Without it, she might fantasize about you, but she won't pursue you. She'll admire you, but she won't engage. She'll want you, but she won't risk making the first move. There's also another layer to emotional safety that's often overlooked: the safety of being understood. A woman doesn't want to just feel safe from harm. She wants to feel emotionally seen. Does she feel like she can express herself without judgment? Can she trust that if she reaches out, she won't be dismissed, ignored, or made to feel foolish for taking that step? Women crave connection that feels emotionally intelligent, where their feelings are not only validated, but appreciated. If the connection seems like it's only being driven by your desires, your needs, or your pace, then she won't feel safe. She'll feel like she has to sacrifice her comfort just to stay in your orbit. And no matter how much she craves you, if the emotional safety isn't there, she'll keep her distance. Not because she doesn't want you, but because she's learned that craving someone who can't hold emotional space for her is a road to self-destruction. Sometimes a woman will wait quietly, not because she lacks interest, but because she's observing. She's watching how you handle distance, how you handle silence, how you respond when she pulls back. If you come toward her with calm, steady energy, she might lean in. But if your reaction is impulsive, entitled, or overly reactive, she'll retreat further. Emotional safety is built in the quiet spaces, in how you carry yourself, how you respect her boundaries, how you speak about things that matter, and how you handle your own emotions. Women are intuitive creatures. They read between the lines. They sense things that are unsaid. And if the emotional tone you give off doesn't feel safe, she'll never risk reaching out, no matter how deeply she may crave you internally. Sometimes when a woman goes silent, it's not because she's lost interest or forgotten about you. In fact, she might be more interested than ever, but her silence serves a purpose. She's not ignoring you, she's studying you. She's observing the way you respond when she's not present, when she's not the one initiating, when she's not filling the space with words or validation. This is not a game she's playing to manipulate or confuse you. It's a subtle test of your energy. She wants to know if your attraction to her is rooted in something genuine or if it's merely reactive. Is your confidence real, or does it collapse the moment she stops giving you attention? Is your presence consistent, or does it vanish the second she becomes quiet? Women often test in silence because that's when truth reveals itself. Anyone can act interested when they're being fed energy. But who are you when the conversation slows down? Who are you when she stops texting first, when she stops giving you emotional cues to follow? That silence creates a space where your intentions become clearer, not to her in an obvious, logical way, but to her, she's feeling you out, and it's in those quiet moments that your energy speaks the loudest. If you react with desperation, with insecurity, or with passive-aggressive attempts to regain control, it tells her everything she needs to know about the emotional maturity you operate from. But if you remain grounded, self-assured, and unbothered in a respectful way, it speaks volumes about your inner balance. A woman's craving is rarely impulsive. It builds in layers, and when she's drawn to you, part of her is hoping you'll rise to the level of energy she wants to meet. But she can't just ask you to do that. It has to come from you. That's why she'll retreat into her silence and see what you do. Are you emotionally patient? Do you have the capacity to hold space without pressing or pushing? Can you allow the connection to breathe without forcing her hand? That's what she's watching for. And yes, this happens even when the attraction is intense. Craving someone is one thing. Trusting them enough to surrender to that craving is another. Her silence is her way of creating a boundary between those two worlds. It's her way of asking, can I let go with you, or do I need to protect myself from you? Many men misread this silence and assume it's disinterest, but what's really happening is a test of rhythm. She's checking if you're aligned with the pace that feels right to her. Not every woman will come out and say what she wants directly. Some of them want to feel it in your energy. They want to see if your confidence can hold steady when you're not being chased. That's a huge indicator for her. Because if your attraction is only activated by her validation, then what happens when life gets real? What happens when she's busy, distracted, or going through something emotional? Will you remain centered, or will you fall apart? Women don't always test with words. They test with absence, with space, with energy shifts. And the truth is, she wants to be able to reach out. She wants to feel like it's safe to do so. But before she gives you that access, she's checking if you're someone who knows how to lead without control, pursue without pressure, and hold space without ego. It's in that quiet evaluation that many men fail, not because they don't care, but because they don't understand what the silence is actually asking for. She's not waiting for a grand gesture. She's waiting to feel energetically chosen in a way that doesn't require her to chase. If your energy becomes chaotic or needy the moment she withdraws, it confirms her fears. But if your energy remains calm, focused, and authentic, it creates a magnetic tension. That's when she starts to lean back in. Not because you convinced her, but because she felt you. Women crave men who can maintain emotional direction without needing constant reminders of their value. And that craving doesn't dissolve in silence. What she does with it depends entirely on how your energy responds when she says nothing at all. There's a quiet truth that often goes unspoken when it comes to why a woman might deeply crave someone but never make the first move. It's not always about pride or playing hard to get. Many times it comes down to something much more human, much more vulnerable: fear of rejection and the need to protect her ego. Women are emotional beings by nature, and that emotional depth comes with layers of caution, especially in a world where vulnerability can easily be misunderstood or taken for granted. When a woman feels something for someone, that emotion doesn't sit lightly inside her. It stirs things up. It makes her imagine, reflect, and sometimes overthink. But before she acts on any of those feelings, she pauses. Not because the feeling isn't strong, but because taking the first step would mean risking exposure. Reaching out to someone she craves means putting herself in a position where she could be dismissed, misunderstood, or worse, ignored. That kind of emotional risk doesn't come easily. A woman has likely been through moments in her life where she opened up, made herself visible, and was met with silence or disinterest. She might carry the memory of a time when she texted first and the energy wasn't reciprocated, or when she showed interest only to be toyed with. These wounds might not always be obvious, but they live under the surface, and they shape how she engages with her own desire. Craving someone doesn't erase those memories. In fact, it can amplify them. The more she feels, the more she fears. Because desire is dangerous when you're not sure if it's mutual. And so she waits. She chooses the safety of silence over the uncertainty of reaching out. Social conditioning also plays a role. From a very young age, many women are taught not to be too forward, not to chase, not to appear needy or desperate. These messages, subtle or loud, become part of her internal wiring. Even when she wants to send that message or initiate that conversation, there's a voice inside her asking, what if he doesn't feel the same? Or what if I'm doing too much? This self-questioning isn't weakness, it's self-preservation. Because in her mind, preserving her dignity, her value, and her emotional safety outweighs the temporary relief of acting on impulse. She wants to be wanted. She wants to be chosen. And not just in response to her pursuit, but freely, intentionally, and without prompting. When a woman craves you but never contacts you, it's not because the craving isn't real. It's because the craving exists side by side with a deep need to be pursued in a way that feels safe and certain. She wants to know that if she opens that door, she won't have to regret it. That if she lets herself be seen, she won't end up feeling foolish. And in a world where women are constantly navigating expectations, attention, and emotional labor, reaching out often feels like handing over power that she doesn't want to lose. She might look confident on the outside, she might be accomplished, poised, and seemingly in control, but emotionally, she's still that same girl who once put herself out there and didn't get the response she hoped for. That memory stays with her. It reminds her that being the first to reach out can come at a cost. Her silence is often misunderstood as disinterest or emotional gamesmanship, but in many cases it's her quiet way of protecting herself. The craving is real, but the risk feels greater. So she waits, she watches, she hopes. She lets the desire sit quietly beneath the surface, trusting that if it's meant to unfold, it will do so without her having to take that first leap. Because taking the first leap means being exposed. It means surrendering the mystery that often feels like her only shield. And unless she feels absolutely certain that she'll be met with warmth, respect, and sincerity, she will continue to protect her ego with silence, even if it means craving from a distance. One of the most common reasons a woman might crave you but never reach out is rooted in the emotional confusion that comes from mixed signals. Attraction isn't just about looks or charm. It's about how your energy makes her feel. And when your energy is inconsistent, when you show up with interest one day and disappear the next, it creates a storm inside her. Women are deeply intuitive and emotionally responsive. They pick up on subtle shifts in tone, in timing, in the weight behind your words. And when that emotional rhythm keeps changing, it creates internal conflict. She might feel drawn to you one moment, then question everything the next. She'll replay conversations in her mind, analyze how your responses felt, and wonder why your energy suddenly shifted without explanation. And while the craving may still be there, it gets buried under layers of emotional doubt. Women crave clarity even more than they crave attention. Clarity is what allows her to feel secure in her emotions. It helps her know where she stands, what's real, and what's just temporary. So when a man comes in strong with compliments, affection, and desire, but then suddenly pulls away, goes cold, or starts acting distant without a clear reason, it doesn't just confuse her, it causes emotional turbulence. It makes her question herself. Was she too much? Did she misread the signs? Is she being naive for thinking there was something real between them? This confusion doesn't push her to reach out for answers. It does the opposite. It paralyzes her. It makes her emotionally freeze because she doesn't want to seem desperate for clarity that you're not offering willingly. When a woman senses that your attention is inconsistent, it tells her that your presence might not be reliable. And reliability is a major pillar of emotional safety. If she has to guess how you feel, she won't feel secure enough to act on her craving. She might want to reach out, but something in her will hold back. That internal voice will whisper, "He was so present yesterday. Why does he feel so far away today?" That inconsistency signals that you might not be emotionally available. And no matter how strong the craving, women are slow to pursue someone who feels emotionally unpredictable. It doesn't matter if the attraction is mutual. If your presence is unstable, she'll retreat into herself before she takes a risk. The emotional conflict she experiences in the face of mixed signals can be overwhelming. It's a push and pull that leaves her in limbo. And no woman wants to chase after uncertainty. She might look like she's playing hard to get, but she's really trying to protect her peace. Because once she starts craving someone who confuses her emotionally, she knows how much energy that can take from her. And then she might start feeling someone who confuses her emotionally. She knows how much energy that can take from her. She doesn't want to keep wondering if today is a good day to message you, or if you'll even respond with the same warmth she felt last time. That kind of guessing game isn't exciting to her. It's exhausting. It creates emotional exhaustion that builds over time and eventually teaches her to disengage altogether. Inconsistency also leaves room for insecurity to grow. Even if she was confident at the beginning, the more you fluctuate, the more she questions herself. And for a woman who has worked hard to cultivate self-worth and emotional balance, entering a dynamic that makes her second guess everything she feels can be deeply unsettling. It's not about blaming or resenting you. It's about preserving her emotional clarity. If she doesn't know what version of you she's going to get, then reaching out becomes a risk to her heart, her mind, and the emotional progress she's made from past situations where she gave too much to someone who couldn't show up consistently. This is why a woman may crave you intensely but choose not to make a move. Her silence isn't disinterest. It's a self-protective response to unclear emotional signals. She wants to feel emotionally held, not emotionally confused. And when your energy is unpredictable, even the strongest attraction won't be enough to push her into taking initiative. Instead, she'll observe. She'll wait. She'll pull back, not because she wants you to chase, but because she needs to understand what you really want. She needs to know if you're someone who's emotionally consistent, someone she can rely on, someone who won't shift without explanation and leave her wondering if her craving for you is safe or simply self-sabotage in disguise. Sometimes a woman craves you deeply, but never contacts you because she is waiting for emotional leadership. Women are naturally responsive by design, not because they lack initiative, but because they are tuned into emotional frequencies. They observe, they feel, they interpret energy. And when she finds herself drawn to a man, what she's truly craving underneath that attraction is leadership, not control, not dominance, but emotional clarity, direction, and intentionality. She wants to feel like there's a sense of purpose behind the interaction. that the connection isn't just floating without direction, that there's someone willing to guide the energy forward instead of waiting for her to steer it. When a man doesn't lead emotionally, he puts the weight of the interaction on her shoulders without realizing it. She's left wondering what the next step is supposed to be. She's asking herself whether she should initiate, whether she should plan the next move, whether she should check in, and every time she thinks about doing it, there's a sense of emotional imbalance. Because deep inside, she's not craving to be the driver of the relationship dynamic. She's craving to be met with clarity, with someone who sets the tone with presence and intention. If she doesn't feel that from you, no matter how much she desires you, she will likely stay silent. Because without emotional leadership, she doesn't feel emotionally guided. The truth is, many women are exhausted from constantly having to initiate emotional connection in other parts of their lives. They are often the emotional anchors of their families, their friendships, their workplaces. They carry emotional weight in so many places that when it comes to romance, they don't want to be the ones managing the emotional labor again. They don't want to be the ones constantly checking the temperature of the connection, wondering if things are progressing or stagnating. If a woman craves you but doesn't reach out, it might be because she doesn't want to step into the role of emotional manager. She wants to feel pursued by someone who already knows how to carry emotional weight with maturity and consistency. Leadership in this context doesn't mean trying to impress her with grand gestures. It's not about controlling the narrative or trying to force outcomes. It's about creating a safe and steady emotional environment where she can relax into her femininity, her desire, her softness. It's about being intentional with your communication, clear with your actions, and steady with your presence. When a woman senses that from you, it activates her willingness to participate, to engage, to lean in. But if she doesn't feel that steady presence, she's not going to initiate, because chasing a man who doesn't lead emotionally feels like walking into a fog with no map. Even when she craves you intensely, when her mind and body are filled with thoughts of you, if she doesn't feel like there's a direction or container for that energy, she'll suppress it. Not because she doesn't care, but because she's trained herself not to invest in dynamics where she feels like the one doing all the emotional work. And that craving doesn't go away. It sits with her, sometimes quietly and sometimes loudly, but it never motivates action unless she sees that you're capable of taking emotional initiative. The irony is, many men are waiting for her to make the first move while she's waiting for them to set the emotional tone. This creates a stalemate where both people want connection, but neither moves because the emotional rhythm is off. Women are incredibly receptive to energy. She may not need you to plan her life or decide for her, but she absolutely notices whether you're able to hold emotional space. She notices whether you're intentional in your words or just speaking to fill silence. She senses whether your presence is deliberate or distracted. And if she doesn't feel that emotional leadership, even her strongest craving won't be enough to push her into taking the risk of initiating. Her silence is often her way of saying, "Show me where this is going, and I'll follow if it feels safe." But if you don't show her, she won't ask. She won't reach out. She'll simply hold her feelings in place, hoping you'll step forward and give her a reason to let them move freely. There are times when a woman craves you, thinks about you, imagines conversations with you in her head, and still chooses not to contact you, not because she doesn't want to, but because she feels like the value of her presence hasn't been fully recognized. Women are deeply intuitive, and they can tell when a man is only half invested, emotionally distracted, or taking their energy for granted. Even if she desires you, she won't pour that desire into a space where she doesn't feel fully seen. Craving someone doesn't mean she's willing to give that craving a voice, especially if she senses that the energy is not being fully reciprocated or appreciated in a way that honors her value. When a woman feels undervalued, unseen, or like an option, she silences herself even in the middle of a craving. What she wants more than anything is to be emotionally acknowledged, not just admired on a surface level. She wants to feel like who she is, her mind, her spirit, her essence, matters beyond her looks or what she can offer emotionally. If she feels that you only see fragments of her, or that you only engage when it's convenient for you, she internalizes that. She feels that disconnect, and it becomes the filter through which she processes her craving. Even if she thinks about you constantly, wonders what you're doing, rereads past messages, or replayed memories, she still won't move toward you if doing so means abandoning her sense of self-worth. Women are often put in situations where they have to question their value in someone else's life. This creates a strong internal boundary, one that tells her, don't reach out to someone who doesn't make you feel fully valued. So, instead of acting on her craving, she contains it. She tucks it away. She reminds herself that she deserves to be desired in a way that makes her feel chosen, not just wanted. Craving without being seen can be painful, and she's not going to invite more pain into her space by opening herself up to someone who hasn't given her the emotional safety of being fully valued. She knows what it feels like to show up in a space where her presence is barely acknowledged or inconsistently appreciated, and she's not going to let that happen again, no matter how much she longs for you. Her silence in this case is not passive, it's powerful. It's her way of holding on to her value even when her heart is drawn to you. It's her decision to protect her emotional worth from someone who hasn't shown her through action, energy, or consistency that he truly values what she brings. And it's not that you need to perform or impress her. It's about the emotional experience she has around you. Does she feel like she matters beyond the surface? Does she feel good enough? Once we break down the concept, does she feel like her emotions are safe with you, that her time is respected and her energy valued? If the answer isn't clear, her craving will remain hidden, not because it's weak, but because she's strong enough to contain it in the absence of being genuinely seen. Often, the mistake is assuming that just because she hasn't reached out, she's not thinking about you. But silence is not absence. It's not a lack of feeling, it's a protective barrier. She's not going to knock on a door where she doesn't feel welcomed with presence, intention, and emotional respect. And women, especially the ones who are self-aware and emotionally mature, don't reach out just because they want to. They weigh the emotional cost. They measure how valued they feel, and if the equation doesn't add up, they'd rather sit with their desire privately than expose it to someone who hasn't shown them that it's safe to express it. So while you may be on her mind constantly, while she might check your social media, look at old conversations, or wonder how things could have been, she won't reach out until she feels like the space between you is one where her full self is welcomed and appreciated. Not just her beauty, not just her energy when it's convenient, but her depth, her effort, her vulnerability. If she doesn't feel that full recognition, she'll choose silence over risk. Not because she's done craving you, but because she's finally honoring herself enough not to beg for the attention she deserves, to be given freely.